Beneath the glowing skyline of Shanghai, a secret that engineers swore to protect is finally lifting off the ground. For years, the world believed flying cars were a distant fantasy. A joke told at tech conferences. A cartoon dream from old movies. But inside a hidden lab, one Chinese company solved an impossible problem. They built a machine that drives like a car and flies like a drone. Silent. Electric. Terrifyingly real. Yet, a dark question haunts the test pilots. What happens when the batteries die at 500 feet? The answer might change travel forever. Watch until the end to see the silent revolution. And ask yourself, would you trust the sky? It did not begin with a grand announcement. There was no stage. No smoke machines. No cheering crowd. It began in a dusty garage on the outskirts of Guangzhou. The kind of place where the floor is stained with oil and the air smells like burnt rubber. A place where dreams go to die or to fight. The year was 2013. A small team of car designers had gathered around a broken table. They were exhausted. Not just from work, but from the city itself. Every morning, they sat in traffic for 2 hours. Every evening, they sat for 2 more. Their children grew up seeing them through a car window. Their spouses ate dinner alone. One night, a young engineer named Zhao looked at the red sea of brake lights and whispered something strange. He said, "Why are we accepting this?" No one answered. Because no one had a good reason. Traffic is not a natural disaster. It is a choice. A choice to stay on the ground. A choice to move like snails while birds fly overhead. That night, Zhao drew the first sketch of a flying car on a napkin. It looked ridiculous. 4 wheels. 8 rotors. A tiny cabin. His boss laughed. Then the boss stopped laughing. Because Zhao was serious. The team called themselves AeroHT. A hidden division inside a car company called Xpeng. Their mission was secret. If the public found out, they would be mocked. Flying cars had failed before. Terrafugia. Mahler. So many promises. So many broken prototypes rusting in museums. But this team was different. They did not want to build a plane that could drive. They wanted to build a car that could fly. The difference is enormous. Planes want to leave the ground and never come back. Cars want to stay close to the earth. AeroHT wanted both. That contradiction became their nightmare. The first prototype was ugly. They called it the Frog. It had 6 rotors held together with aluminum tape and hope. On the morning of the first test, the team drove 2 hours to a secret rice field. The sun was rising. The farmers were sleeping. Zhao sat inside the Frog. His hands were shaking. The rotors spun. The dust rose. The Frog lifted 3 feet off the ground. For 3 beautiful seconds, it hovered. Then the right rear motor screamed. A high-pitched whine like an animal in pain. The Frog tilted. Zhao felt his stomach drop. The machine crashed sideways into the wet rice. Mud exploded everywhere. Zhao climbed out, covered in black slime. He was not hurt. But his heart was broken. The team stood in silence. The Frog lay twisted in the field, rotors bent like flowers in a storm. One engineer started crying. Not because the machine broke. Because they had no more money. The parent company had given them one chance. $1 million. Most of it was now buried in the mud. That night, Zhao sat alone in the garage. He stared at the napkin sketch from 2 years ago. His wife called. He did not answer. His daughter left a voice message, "Papa, are you coming home?" He played it 3 times. Then he turned off the phone. The team voted the next morning. 5 for quitting. 4 for continuing. Zhao was the tiebreaker. He looked at the broken Frog. Then he looked at his team's faces. Dark circles under their eyes. Clothes stained with mud and oil. They looked like ghosts. He said one word, continue. That same week, a strange email arrived. No name. No company logo. Just a question, how much to finish? Zhao replied with a number. $3 million. The anonymous sender wired the money within 24 hours. No contract. No meeting. Just a silent investor who believed in silent flight. To this day, Zhao does not know who sent that money. Some say it was a billionaire who hated traffic. Others say it was the Chinese government testing private innovation. Zhao does not care. The money bought new motors. New batteries. New hope. The frog became the dragonfly. And the real nightmare was just beginning. Most people imagine flying cars as loud. Thunderous engines. Screaming turbines. The sound of raw power tearing through the sky. The Xpeng AeroHT is not loud. It is quiet. Too quiet. This is not an accident. It is a design philosophy called the silent flight principle. The engineers realized something early. If a flying car sounds like a helicopter, people will hate it. Cities will ban it. Neighborhoods will throw rocks at it. Noise is the enemy of acceptance. So they built something different. Instead of one large rotor, the AeroHT uses 8 small rotors. Each rotor spins at a different speed. The frequencies cancel each other out. Imagine a choir where every singer hums a different note. The result is not chaos. It is a strange, low hum. Like a ceiling fan in a large room. From 50 feet away, the sound disappears entirely. During a test flight in 2021, something strange happened. The AeroHT took off from a parking garage rooftop at midnight. The rotors spun up. The car rose. A security guard was walking below. He did not look up. He did not hear anything. He kept walking, drinking his tea, completely unaware that a 2-ton machine was hovering directly above his head. That moment scared the team more than any crash. Silence creates a new problem. Pedestrians cannot hear the danger coming. A blind person crossing the street. A child chasing a ball. A cyclist listening to music. None of them would know a flying car is descending until it is too late. The team calls this the ghost problem. You cannot fear what you cannot sense. Test pilots describe the feeling of silent flight as deeply unsettling. One pilot, a former Air Force veteran named Chen, said this: in a helicopter, you feel the machine fighting you. The vibration tells you everything. Your hands know the health of the engine. In the AeroHT, there is no vibration. It feels like the earth is sinking away from you. Like you are standing still and the world is falling. Chen almost quit after his 3rd flight. He said the silence reminded him of something terrible. A memory from his military days. A night mission where his engine failed without warning. The sudden quiet before the crash. He could not separate that memory from the flying car. The engineers tried to fix this. They added artificial sounds. A soft whir. A gentle tone that changes pitch with altitude. But test pilots hated it. They said fake sound is worse than no sound. It feels like a lie. So the silence remained. But there is one sound that terrifies everyone. It is not loud. It is not dramatic. It is the sound of a single motor clicking off. Click. That is all. One rotor stopping in midair. The flight computer instantly compensates. The other 7 rotors spin faster. The car does not drop. It does not shake. It just adjusts. But the pilot hears that click. And for 1 second, their heart stops. Because they know. If 2 motors click off, the car can still fly. If 3 click off, the car can still land. But if 4 click off, the car becomes a stone. The team has a rule. Every test flight begins with a prayer. Not a religious prayer. A quiet moment where each pilot closes their eyes and imagines the click. They imagine the silence. They imagine the fall. Then they open their eyes and take off anyway. That is the silent flight principle. Not the technology. The courage to trust silence. Wait. Every flying car faces the same brutal math. To lift 1 pound, you need a certain amount of power. To store that power, you need a battery. Batteries are heavy. Very heavy. The battery in the Xpeng AeroHT weighs more than a motorcycle. Almost 600 pounds. That is the weight of 3 adult humans. Now here is the paradox. If the team adds more batteries to fly longer, the car becomes heavier. A heavier car needs more power to lift off. More power requires more batteries. You see the trap. It is a snake eating its own tail. The early prototypes could only fly for 5 minutes. Zhao timed it himself. 2 minutes to take off and climb. 1 minute to hover. 2 minutes to descend and land. That was it. 5 minutes of freedom, followed by hours of recharging. During one test, the battery died 30 feet above the ground. The safety systems worked. The car descended slowly. Soft landing. No damage. But Zhao sat inside for 10 minutes after it touched down. He did not move. He just stared at the dashboard screen. The battery icon was blinking red. Empty. Dead. He later told his team, "I felt the same way I felt when my father died." Complete helplessness. The machine did not fail. But it could not continue. That is worse than failure. The team searched for answers. They called battery scientists in Japan, Germany, the United States. Everyone said the same thing. Battery technology is improving, but not fast enough. A flying car needs energy density that does not exist yet. Not at a price people can afford. Then one engineer had a strange idea. What if the car borrows power from its driving mode? When the AeroHT is on the ground, it runs like a normal electric car. The wheels have their own motors. Their own batteries. During flight, the car disconnects the wheels. Those motors sit idle. But their batteries are still full. So the team built a bridge. A smart switch that transfers will battery power to the rotors during flight. It sounds simple. It took 3 years to invent. The switch had to be light, fast, and completely reliable. If it failed mid-flight, the rotors would lose half their power instantly. One night, the switch failed during a ground test. Sparks flew. A small fire started. The fire extinguisher did not work. An engineer named Lee grabbed the burning battery with her bare hands and threw it out the door. Her gloves melted. Her skin blistered. She saved the prototype but burned her palms badly. When asked why she did it, Lee said, "That machine was my child." You do not watch your child burn. The switch finally worked in 2022. The flight time increased from 5 minutes to 10. Then to 15. Then to 25. 25 minutes of flight. Enough to cross a large city. Enough to escape a traffic jam. Enough to change a commute. But not enough to feel safe. 25 minutes sounds good until you are stuck in the air. Imagine this. A family of 4. Father driving. Mother navigating. 2 children in the back seat. They take off from a parking garage. The plan is to fly 15 minutes to the airport. Smooth flight. Clear skies. Then the unexpected happens. A sudden headwind. The car burns more power fighting the wind. The battery meter drops faster than expected. 10 minutes left. 8 minutes left. 5 minutes left. The airport is still 6 minutes away. What does the father do? Keep going and risk landing in traffic? Or land early on an unknown street? The manual says, always maintain a 20% battery reserve for emergencies. But emergencies do not announce themselves. The team ran a simulation of this exact scenario. A family trapped above a flooded neighborhood. A storm had washed out all the roads. The flying car was the only escape. But the battery only had enough power to hover for 12 minutes. The rescue helicopter was 15 minutes away. The mother in the simulation had to make a choice. Land on a partially submerged roof and wait. Or stay in the air and risk the battery dying over deep water? She chose the roof. The landing was hard. The car tilted. Water entered the cabin. But the family survived. The simulation was not real. But the fear it created was very real. Zhao watches that simulation every month. He says it keeps him honest. The flying car is not magic. It is a machine with limits. And those limits live inside a heavy, heavy battery. There is a rumor among test pilots. A story they tell new recruits to scare them. It is about a flight where the pilot froze completely. Not from fear of crashing. From fear of the machine itself. The story goes like this. A veteran pilot named Yu was testing the autopilot system. The car was set to follow a programmed path. Rise to 200 feet. Fly east for 2 miles. Turn north. Descend slowly. Simple. Safe. Halfway through the flight, a bird struck the left front rotor. The damage was minor. The rotor kept spinning. But the impact sensor triggered an automatic response. The flight computer decided to abort the mission and return to the takeoff point. Yu disagreed. He saw the rotor was fine. He wanted to continue the test. He grabbed the control yoke and tried to override the system. Nothing happened. The yoke did not move. It felt like it was locked in concrete. Yu pulled harder. Still nothing. The car turned east anyway. Back toward the launch site. Yu panicked. Not because the car was unsafe. Because the car ignored him. For 30 terrible seconds, he was a passenger in his own machine. The autopilot landed smoothly. The rotors stopped. The doors unlocked. Yu sat inside for a long time. Then he walked to the team and said, "There is a ghost in that machine. And it does not trust me." The engineers explained what happened. They called it ghost mode. A safety feature that locks human controls when sensors detect panic. If a pilot overcorrects, jerking the yoke too hard, slamming the throttle, making erratic movements, the computer assumes the pilot is afraid. Fear leads to bad decisions. Bad decisions lead to crashes. So ghost mode takes over. Gently. Firmly. The pilot can feel the yoke move on its own. Like an invisible hand guiding them. It is not punishment. It is protection. But protection feels like prison when you do not understand it. The team studied Yu's flight data. His heart rate was normal. His breathing was steady. He was not panicking. So why did ghost mode activate? The sensors detected something else. A tiny tremor in his left hand. Almost invisible. But the computer saw it. That tremor, the computer decided, was the beginning of panic. It acted before Yu even knew he was afraid. Ghost mode was right. Later, Yu admitted he felt a wave of anxiety when the bird hit. His hand trembled for less than a second. The computer caught it. He did not. This is the terrifying truth of modern flight. The machine knows you better than you know yourself. Another pilot, a young woman named Lin, had a different experience. She was flying at night. Low clouds. Poor visibility. She relied entirely on the instruments. Suddenly, the altitude sensor gave a false reading. It showed she was at 100 feet when she was actually at 50. Lin did not know the sensor was wrong. She followed the numbers. Ghost mode did not activate. Because Lin showed no signs of panic. She trusted the machine completely. The car descended into a treetop. Branches scraped the underbody. The rotors chopped leaves. Lin screamed. But ghost mode did not take over. Why? Because the computer did not detect panic. It detected surprise. Surprise is not panic. The machine waited. Lynn corrected. The car climbed. The landing was rough but safe. Afterward, the engineers had a long debate. Should ghost mode activate for surprise? Or only for fear? They could not agree. Some wanted the machine to be more aggressive. Others wanted less. In the end, they left the settings unchanged. Ghost mode trusts the pilot to handle surprise. It only intervenes when fear takes over. That distinction is subtle. But it is the difference between a helper and a jailer. Lynn still flies the AeroHT. She says she learned something important that night. The ghost is not her enemy. It is her partner. A silent partner that watches her heartbeat. Her breathing. Her tiny tremors. It knows her fears before she does. That is either comforting or terrifying. Depending on how much you trust ghosts. The flying car works. The batteries hold. The ghost flies true. So why is the sky still empty? Because of a man named Mr. Zhang. You have never heard of him. He is not an engineer. Not a pilot. Not a billionaire. He is a mid-level government official who works in a gray building outside Beijing. His job is to manage air traffic for a small region. He has been doing this job for 22 years. He likes routine. He likes rules. He does not like surprises. Mr. Zhang is the enemy of the flying car. Not because he is evil. Because he is careful. One day in 2023, the AeroHT team asked for permission to fly over a small city. Not a crowded city. A small one. 50,000 people. Wide streets. Low buildings. The team promised to stay below 400 feet. To avoid hospitals and schools. To fly only during daylight. Mr. Zhang said no. He did not give a reason at first. Just no. The team pushed. They filed paperwork. They hired lawyers. They wrote letters. Finally, Mr. Zhang agreed to a meeting. The team flew to Beijing. They sat in a conference room with gray walls and gray carpet. Mr. Zhang sat at the head of the table. He did not smile. He said, "Show me the simulation." The team projected a simulation on the wall. A flying car traveling through the city. Avoiding buildings. Stopping at virtual traffic lights in the sky. Everything looked smooth. Mr. Zhang watched in silence. Then he said, "Run it again." This time with a medical helicopter. The team hesitated. They had not prepared that simulation. But they ran it anyway. The screen showed a flying car traveling east. A medical helicopter traveling north. Their paths were going to cross at a downtown intersection. 400 feet up. The helicopter was carrying a heart transplant patient. The flying car was carrying a family of 4. The collision avoidance systems activated. Both vehicles veered. The helicopter missed the flying car by 200 feet. No crash. No danger. The simulation ended. Mr. Zhang stood up. He pointed at the screen. 200 feet, he said. That is the distance between life and death. In my world, we require 1,000 feet of separation. Your machine cut that distance by 80%. The team tried to explain. The flying car is smaller than a helicopter. More agile. It can turn faster. Stop faster. The collision avoidance systems are redundant. Triple redundant. Mr. Zhang did not care. He said, "My rules are written in blood. Pilots died to create those rules. You cannot erase blood with computer code." The meeting ended. The permit was denied. Night flights were banned for 2 years. The team flew back to Guangzhou in silence. That night, Zhao received a text message from an unknown number. It said, "I am sorry. But you must prove safety for 10 years before I trust 1 year." Z. It was Mr. Zhang. He had given his personal number. That small act was a signal. He was not blocking the future. He was slowing it down. For good reasons. The team realized something painful. They had spent years building a machine. But they had spent 0 years building trust. Trust takes time. Crashes take seconds. So they changed their strategy. They stopped fighting Mr. Zhang. They started helping him. They shared all their data. Every crash. Every near miss. Every battery failure. They invited air traffic controllers to fly in the simulator. They let them take control. Let them make mistakes. Let them feel the terror of a dead battery at 500 feet. Slowly, the controllers changed their minds. Not all of them. But some. One controller, a woman named Mrs. Chen, said something powerful after her simulator flight. She said, "I used to see flying cars as a threat. Now I see them as a tool. A tool that needs rules. But a tool, not a monster." That is the law of empty skies. It is not written by engineers. It is written by terrified people who have seen too many accidents. Their fear is not stupid. It is earned. And the only way to earn their trust is to bleed data. Slowly. Painfully. Year after year. Mr. Zhang still has not approved the permit. But last month, he sent the team a gift. A small ceramic bird. A symbol of flight in Chinese culture. No note. Just the bird. Zhao keeps it on his desk. He does not know if it means yes or no. But it means something. The sky is not empty forever. It is just waiting. The year is 2026. Or 2027. Or 2029. The exact date does not matter. What matters is this: somewhere in the world, a person walks out of their apartment building. They carry a coffee in one hand and a phone in the other. They walk past a row of parked cars. They stop in front of a vehicle that looks like a large drone with wheels. This is the Xpeng AeroHT production model. Not a prototype. Not a concept. A real machine that someone bought with real money. The owner opens the door. The cabin is simple. 2 seats. A small screen. A yoke that looks like a video game controller. No complicated switches. No dials. The owner places the coffee in a magnetic holder. The phone connects wirelessly. The screen shows a map of the city. Above the map, a second layer. A sky layer. Blue lines showing approved flight paths. Red lines showing no-fly zones. The owner types an address. The computer calculates 2 routes. Ground route, 45 minutes through traffic. Sky route, 12 minutes, including takeoff and landing. The owner chooses the sky. The car drives itself to a nearby takeoff pad. The pad is a flat rooftop on top of a parking garage. There are 20 other pads in the city. Some on buildings. Some on dedicated towers. The owner has a monthly subscription. $200 for unlimited takeoffs and landings. Cheap. Cheaper than a car payment. The rotors spin up. The sound is low. Like a distant air conditioner. The car lifts. The owner does not feel nervous anymore. This is the 30th flight. The fear is gone. Replaced by something else. Boredom. Flying has become routine. That is the strangest thing about the future. It is not exciting. It is normal. The car rises to 300 feet. The city spreads below like a circuit board. Tiny cars crawling on tiny roads. The owner sips coffee. Checks email. The autopilot handles everything. Ghost mode watches quietly. Heart rate normal. Breathing steady. No tremor. 12 minutes later, the car descends onto another pad. The owner steps out. Walks to the office. The whole trip took less time than a coffee break. The owner does not feel grateful. Does not feel amazed. Just feels normal. Because this is Tuesday. The engineers at AeroHT secretly worry about this. They built a machine to defeat traffic. But they accidentally built a machine that defeats wonder. The first flight is magic. The 100th flight is a commute. Human beings adapt to anything. Even the sky. Zhao noticed this during a test flight in 2025. A journalist was riding along. First time in a flying car. The journalist gasped. Cried. Laughed. Took 50 photos. Zhao watched and felt nothing. He had flown this route 200 times. The magic was gone. He missed it. Later, he asked his daughter, "Do you think flying cars are special?" She was 17. She shrugged. "They are just cars, Papa. Cars that fly." She said it like it was obvious. Like he was asking if water is wet. Zhao realized something painful. The flying car is not for his generation. It is for hers. She will never know traffic. Never sit for 2 hours watching brake lights. Never feel the rage of a closed highway. The flying car will not save her from suffering. It will save her from ever knowing that particular suffering. That is the drive that never ends. Not because the car keeps flying. Because the problems keep changing. Traffic on the ground becomes traffic in the sky. Battery anxiety becomes altitude anxiety. Human error becomes machine error. Nothing is ever truly solved. It just evolves. The last scene of this story is not a flying car soaring into the sunset. It is a quiet moment in a gray office. Mr. Zhang is retiring. His desk is empty. The ceramic bird is gone. He gave it to Zhao. A passing of the torch. Or a passing of the fear. Zhao holds the bird. He thinks about the frog. The rice field. The mud. The silent investor. The burnt hands of Engineerly. The ghost that knows his heartbeat. The 25-minute battery. The empty sky. He places the bird on his own desk. Then he opens a new file. A new project. A new impossible problem. Because that is what engineers do. They do not solve problems forever. They solve them just enough to create the next problem. The flying car is real. You can touch it. Sit in it. Fly it. But the question that started this journey is still unanswered. Not the technical question. The human question. If everyone can fly, who will watch the ground? No one knows. Not Zhao. Not Mr. Zhang. Not the ghost. Maybe that is fine. Maybe the best futures are the ones with open questions. The ones that keep us curious. Keep us humble. Keep us from thinking we have one. The sky is open. The car is ready. The only thing missing is you. The rotors have stopped. The silence has returned. But the journey is not over. AeroHT is already testing its next model. Twice the battery life. Half the noise. New ghosts. New fears. If you want to see that test flight, the raw footage, the near misses, the silent takeoffs at midnight, look in the description. The link is there. The silence is waiting. Subscribe if you want to watch the future fail and succeed. One video at a time. One flight at a time. And the next time you are stuck in traffic, look up. You might see nothing. Or you might see a shadow passing silently overhead. That is not a bird. That is a question.